I think a lot of what you're going to see today are a lot more, I don't want to say concrete things, but we had almost kind of a different goal with this grant. So those of you that have ever used the gamification plugin, this was kind of an opportunity for us to improve it. So for our instructional tools grant, our instructional challenge was that Julie McEwen in ECI 514 had been using the gamification plugin and had done that through a design process. And then after using it for 5 years, really had some great suggestions about how it can be improved. And the last couple instructional tools grants that we had done that were using gamification had also asked for some other improvements. So instead of taking a grant where somebody would implement gamification in their course, which is typically what we have done, we decided to kind of flip it just a little bit and see if we can improve gamification by using Julia's course as an example, and then trying to get some more feedback about how we could improve that. The reason for that is because Steve Bader is actually the inventor of the gamification plugin. So he wrote that, he created it with help from Delta, but it's really, I'm going to call it Steve's baby. And he's the one that has to kind of program and do all of those things. So first of all, a lot of what we were doing was kind of gathering data. So we gathered a lot of data from Julia, as well as we reached out to Caitlin Stuckey, who was an instructional tools grant recipient last year. And those were the most recent users of the gamification tool in a grant kind of experience to kind of get their feedback. We also formed a Google group of everybody that had been using the plugin to gather data about usage, as well as kind of provide a community for them to be able to share. And I'm going to let Steve, he might not know this yet, but he's going to talk about the priorities that we identified.
Yeah, so it was really nice because when we sat down, we discussed all the problems with gamification, which I've been kind of aware of in the back of my mind. We got to narrow down to like the four real ones that were painful to the instructor that needed to be addressed. The first one was being able to delete objects and items in gamification. In some areas, you're not allowed to at all. In some areas, if you know the rules of cleaning up the objective, you're able to delete certain things, but it's not real clear. And it would be a big help if it was if the gamification was more assisted you more when deleting items. The second thing, when you move course to course, updating gamification is very difficult to find where you are, what things are linked to, and navigating the interface and learning, reacquainting yourself with how you set up gamification in your course. The third one was it's hard to see what objectives were tied to what activities and what activities are tied to what rewards, and then when users start using them, what relationship they had. And the fourth one, which became our priority, is we want to be able to see the data in multiple ways. So not just one type of list, but the relationship between activities, objectives, rewards, and users shown in different ways. So we're going to do this with UI improvements, activity completion being one of the biggest used objectives, that improving that interface, improving the point set and achievements interface, improving delete functionality across the board, working on the block display and the settings interface for that block, which has become outdated and doesn't display correctly, and introducing a new reward to something that's being done using the filter. So things that we looked at for the activity completion interface, we'd like to rework the interface so that it displays all the activities in the course the same way that the dates report does in a list, just as it shows in their course. Remove the redundancy of the user having to create an objective, tie the objective to an activity, then add the rewards. Since activity completion and objectives are a one-to-one relationship, take that away from the instructor for having to make, just add the rewards straight to activity completion. So that will simplify this process and the most overused objectives. So big improvement there. Also, for each of the activity completion or objective types, we're going to look at adding the rewards in one place so that you can manage them on the same screen. as well as see what users are tied to the objectives and the rewards on the same screen, instead of having to dig down and bubble back up through the interface, which is pretty difficult. Kind of the same thing with manage point sets. Being able to manage a point set in one interface. So create the point set, create the thresholds, instead of having to create an objective for each threshold, 30 points, 50 points. Just create the threshold in one screen and then tie rewards to those thresholds right there. Removing the several steps of creating an objective, adding an award to it, and then not having to create more than one of the same type objective. Being able to delete point sets to see users that are tied to the point sets and in what way. Managing the achievements list. Big one here is there's no possible way to delete an achievement. It was overlooked and it's been in there for a long time. It's time to give users a way to do that. Quickly show what objectives are tied to the achievements so you can find out how people can achieve them, and view the users that have already been rewarded with the achievements. And finally, moving through all of the pieces of the gamification and allowing deletion. The important piece here is when you allow deletion, inform the user the consequences. This is one of the reasons that deletion was so hard to begin with, because I was scared of losing data or breaking things that were once attached. Now, if something's deleted, it will warn the user that this is a cascade delete. You may lose the rewards tied to it and the users that have earned the rewards. The block display is just really dated. So we're going to bring it up to date with a cleaner interface, especially on the settings side of things. Allow the users to order the points display as opposed to them just being in there the way they entered them. Allow the user to order the achievement display within the block, and allowing the instructor to see the block as if they were one of the students in the course. And finally, the display canvas reward is something that we came up with because the filter is being used to create these images that come alive as students move through the course. It's something I never envisioned when I wrote the gamification plugin, and it is one of the main ways it's being used, whether it be a passport or a backyard landscape or trees and bushes that grow things. It's all very tedious to set up inside of a filter reward. So why not make it a much more simplified canvas reward, where the user will create a canvas, determine the height and width, create a token so that they can control where it shows up in the course. And then the rewards will be separate images that go into the canvas that are controlled by the instructor as to what position they go in and at what level. And as the user earns those rewards, those images will place themselves in the canvas appropriately. This will give the instructors an interface to manage the display and not require a degree in HTML to get it done.
So that's kind of like the last of our things that we're working on. Steve has been working on making sure that Moodle 4 works for the new server instance. So he hasn't gotten a chance to make all of these changes yet, so we're not able to present you with a final course. But I did want to share with you, especially those of you like Jennifer that have been working with gamification before. And we haven't been pushing it quite as much because we needed these changes to happen. And it was a really great use of Julia's time and our time. Julia said that if we just allow her to delete things, that will be worth all the effort she put into like doing things in this grant. We are coming up with a Qualtrics survey to gather more data about how people are using gamification, and we hope that this will lead to a wider use and implementation of gamification. So like I said, we're a little bit different in our presentation as for a lot of you were, but I think that just goes to show that sometimes instructional tools grants grow into interesting things that are, it's a great way to value Julia's participation and then to make sure that we have somebody to be able to work with to be able to move those things forward.